Hey guys, it's Gus. And do you read the patch notes whenever they update the game? I do, and a lot of other players do as well. It's a good way to keep informed of what changes the game makes. Because some changes they make are really important to how we play the game, so it's good to know what's going on. So, there's been an issue with patch notes since around the December timeframe, and that's been late and vague and missing items in the patch notes, and it actually creates problems. And when I'm talking about problems in the game, some of them are small, some of them are big, but some of them cost you real money. And that just happened with the last patch notes. Usually when a new module comes out, there's the patch notes are really big because there's so many changes. And this patch note for the new module was actually very small, and they left out stuff. And the problem is they're not telling us what was left out, which means people are going to make purchases with Zen. Zen equals cash. They're going to make purchases with Zen, not knowing that they're not getting what they're paying for. Let me show you. So, not the current lockbox, but the one before was the Earth Moat lockbox. This was a few weeks ago, right? This one had the Skyhold Alligator and Hank the Ranger. And we're going to talk about Hank the Ranger. It's been a complete shit show since this came out. Because A, it was promised to be in the utility slot, which it wasn't, and that was the main reason, for my build that I was using that wanted it because that's the spot I need the most help with. And B, they said it was S tier, and to my knowledge, that's the first time they've ever used that descriptive term for a companion, which, S tier to most people means top of the line, best of the best, cream of the crop. And it wasn't. It was so bad that they had to buff it about 2 weeks later, and it's still absolute dog shit. You know, how could they make this companion any worse? Well, they did. And the problem is they didn't tell us they made it worse, which means people are still opening these lock boxes trying to get it, which means they're spending keys, and keys are only available through Zen. And I know some people say, well, you can get Zen for free through the Zen exchange. No, that means somebody else paid for the Zen. So it's a big stinker when changes are made to you what you're spending money on and they're not telling you. Because they made a change to this. They made a couple changes that I know of, and none of them are stated in the toolbar. Let me show you. So the tooltip is still exactly the same. 25% chance on an encounter hit to cause your targets to bleed for 270 magnitude over 4 seconds. So the reason why this is good is a lot of wardens were using this because we can do in our artifact call a lot of encounters, which means we have a lot of chances to proc this. What made it a little bit better is two of our normal encounters we use in our rotation counted as multiple hits. And there's validity to that because um, to those powers hit multiple times over a period of time, and some people would call that a DOT, a damage over time. And they're not really damage over time because roots is a damage over time because no matter where the boss goes, it's still going to hit them. These put a damage on the ground, and whatever foe is in that spot takes damage. So if you're attacking the boss and some mobs come in, guess they're going to take the damage, not the boss. Or if the boss moves, they don't take the damage. So they're not real dots, but they do, if the boss is sitting stationary, will continue to hit them over a period of time. Which maybe it is a dot, but they don't operate like all the other dots in the game. They're very unique powers. Well, anyways, these two companions were pretty good. Well, not Neverwinter Night. I was running with Hank and Rat Pup instead of Neverwinter Night and Batiri. And it did a little bit more damage. Not a. I have yet to see one log saying they're grossly overpowered. They're better, but not that much better. So if they're just a little bit better, that means they're not broken. Because if being better means something's broken, that means all the new gear they're coming out with is broken because it's better than the previous gear, right? We're supposed to improve over time. And what I liked about them is they gave us a chance to make new builds because we've been using Bateri and Neverwinter Night for years. So it was nice to have options. Well, that option just got taken away, and they didn't tell us it got taken away because there was no patch notes, which is kind of suspect because if you're messing with Zen, shouldn't you tell people? I don't know. I know people have varying opinions on it, but this changed. One of the changes is uh, it didn't refresh. So if you activated it, because this power takes about 3 seconds for those, or 4 seconds for those powers to do their damage. So if you activated it again between 1 second and 4 seconds, now you'd have two stacks of those bleeds going on, right? Well, they changed it. Now, if a bleed's going on and you apply it again, that previous bleed stops and the new one starts, which is kind of a stinker, but it is what it is. But what they didn't tell us, this is the big stinker, is it says 25% chance on encounter hit to cause the target to bleed. The tooltip should state 25% chance on some encounter hits to cause your targets to bleed. Because as a ranger, what makes our class stand out is we have 6 encounters. We have 3 ranged and 3 melee encounters. So I use 6 encounters. I use those 3 ranged, these 3 melee. The problem is 2 of these 3 range powers do not activate this companion power whatsoever. So that means 4 out of 6 powers do, which means a third of my powers can't activate this companion whatsoever. So those 2 powers went from being able to proc it multiple times to never being able to proc it, which makes it even worse than what the tooltip says. So let me show you. I have powers on no cooldowns just to show you on the in the training room. I'm gonna do hindering shot, and you're gonna see the enemy's hit bar up top, and you're gonna see a blue hand apply. When it there you go. That's the bleed right there. That's that little damage tick going on right there. That's from the blue hand, and that means you have the bleed. There you go. It got applied again. So about once every 4 of these, it will apply that bleed. There you go. I don't think you can get the number 2 to show up anymore, because if you got it to double, if you could get 2 of them activated at once, you'd have the number 2 in them. I don't think that's possible. I haven't seen it in around 20 minutes of testing. But look at this. When I use Thorn Ward, uh, it's not. You would think, okay, if they don't want every tick being able to activate it, at least the first one would be able to activate it. So look at that. None of these hits will ever activate it. Why is it not hitting? Oh yeah, he's weird. They're all hitting. He's just not reacting to it. But you're never going to see a blue hand ever. In the hundreds of times I've done this, I've never seen it. Not like this power where it will show after just a couple hits. There you go. That one, it will show up. But on this power, it will never show up. So Thorn Ward does not activate Rat Pup whatsoever. Now we go to Split the Sky, and this will never activate it either. Not even the first hit. So now the Rat Pup, they nerfed it by making it so some encounters don't even work at all. And yeah, I know nerfs are inevitable. They always stink if they're part of your build. But what stinks is that they didn't tell us they did this. And what makes that even worse is players are making purchases of this companion without knowing that they changed this. Sorry, something in my throat. So now players are making bad purchases because they never told us that they made these changes. And, Zen costs money, and people don't want to waste their money. And if they do, the help desk will not help them. They have not helped me in years. And this is, Zen is kind of a big deal. I don't think they should fart around with Zen. I think it could be me. Hey, if you're gonna mess with something that causes Zen, because there's only one possible way to get this companion in the game, and that's through Zen or buying it in the auction house from somebody who paid Zen for it. It is impossible to get this companion anywhere else in the game except through the Earth Moat lockbox. So it is a Zen only, Zen exclusive, cash exclusive item that was nerfed, and they didn't tell us it was nerfed. So they're basically selling an item that they didn't tell us they adjusted downwards. Why would you, how would that not be important? I don't know. It's pretty. I can't think of any positive thing to say about that type of behavior. I think most people would be pretty pissed. And I have a buddy. He's like, "Well, it's term of service says it's not your Zen. Once you buy it, they can do whatever they want to." I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. Uh, you're right. They can do whatever they want. It doesn't mean it's right, in my opinion. I don't know. Now, what else has been nerfed that's not being told in the patch notes? Because it's impossible to test everything. There's tens of thousands of gears, companions, insignias, insignia powders, artifacts, at wills, encounters, dailies, classes, races. There's millions of possibilities. And it's impossible to test every single one, every single patch note. So we rely on the patch notes to find out what changes were made. This is screaming of a lack of priority. Because nobody has shown any way this is broken. Yeah, it's better than the Batteria, but is it brokenly better? No. Well, could be, and somebody found a way, and I just didn't know about it. But I'll tell you what is broken. The music box set literally does not work at all. And I paid money for that because it was in the battle pass and I didn't want to wait till get the full 3,000 whatever points for it. I wanted it, so I paid Zen for it. And a lot of other people did too because it was in the Zen market, it was in the auction house, and it was impossible to have it first day unless you paid cash for it, Zen for it. And a lot of players did because there's a lot of them in the auction house. So so now we got another Zen item that doesn't work whatsoever. That wasn't fixed. Like that was utterly broken and that wasn't fixed. But this item is slightly better performing on certain rotations, on certain bosses, on certain classes. And it was nerfed and they didn't even tell us. I just don't get the priority. I just don't get the lack of I don't understand the lack of transparency. Pretty fishy. I'm trying not to say anything negative about the game because there's so much positive stuff they're trying to do. From what I'm seeing, it's looking really positive. I think there's some growing pains. We haven't seen a mod this big in a long time. I mean, they are doing a ton of shit, and I love it. And I don't really care for the mod too much. That's another story. But I'm liking where the attempt is very impressive to me. Uh, but we'll see. Please comment below if you have any other observations. Stay class, Neverwinter. See you soon.